Alright, all you insomniatic TV channel surfers out there tonight, welcome back to the Tuesday Night Special. And the maestro said, are you going to show a little bit of professionalism next year for Monday Night Raw when they try to set somebody on fire in the middle of the ring? Well, maybe when they don't have it lead in like something from out of the Blair Witch 2, which I apologize in advance for if I spoiled it for anybody out there, but like I said before, I saved you an hour and 30 some odd minutes. So yeah, you're welcome. But besides ruining sequels for people at home who didn't know that the Blair Witch had a sequel, it's time for us to go into another year-ending edition of the As Seen on TV. And the show we have up on the plate for you to end off this year, folks, is none other than a show straight from Fox that would go to Adult Swim in its later years, only known as King of the Hill, which is possibly one of my favorite shows of the Mike Judge universe outside of Beavis and Butthead. But before we go into that, folks, and that little tree arc branch, the meat and potatoes of this said show follows the Hill family, mainly Hank Hill, who works as a propane worker, a part of Strickland Propane, where he sells propane and propane accessories, and try to live a normal life inside of the town of Harlan, Texas, along with his neighbors and best friends from elementary school of Bill Dotrieve, Dale Gribble, and even one of my favorite characters a part of the show, and yes, Maestro, I'm getting ahead of myself with this one, of Jeff Boomhauer, which I did not know his first name was Jeff. And one of the reasons why in the world I love this show so much, outside of the fact that the guy who created this show, Mike Judge, was responsible for not only creating Beavis and Butthead, but at the same time had a little bit of a part in Daria as well, with Beavis and Butthead being featured in Daria. Or the other way around. Thank you, Mike Show, because Daria was actually featured in episodes of Beavis and Butthead, and I do believe the guy who was meant to be Hank Hill was the guy who was featured in Beavis and Butthead as well, and actually got arrested in one of the Beavis and Butthead movies, or the only Beavis and Butthead movie they would come out with. And another reason why in the world I love this show was because of the music that was featured during it, which would actually feature the theme song of Yahoo and Triangles by none other than Refreshments, which I would have the pleasure of hearing the full version of that said song when it would come on Adult Swim in its later years. But before we get into that, folks, and speaking of musical artists, not only this show would feature Kid Rock, it would also feature none other than, of all people, Tom Petty, who played Chuck Mangione, and would even feature ZZ Top, a part of the show as well. Now, unfortunately, they didn't perform on said show, but at the same time, during one episode, they annoyed the living hell out of Hank Hill to the point that they almost caused them to have a conniption over the Cadillac that he was going to destroy. That was actually a part of his dad's collection. Another reason why in the world we love this show is because of the voice actors that was also included in this show, which not only included Mike Judge himself, but also Johnny Knoxville, who was part of the Jackass series, but also Lauren Tom, who was not only Amy Wong in Futurama, but was also Dana 10 in Batman Beyond, and was also number 3 in Codename Kids Next Door, and was also a part of the final season of Grace Under Fire. And you would even see Tommy Huss, who was a part of this show, who was involved in the show known as The Adventures of Pete and Pete as Artie, which I really didn't know that was Artie, but then again, after so many years of not seeing him on TV, he changed a lot. But nevertheless, folks, we would also see Stephen Root, who would play the man in the movie Dodgeball, and would also be featured in the movie of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, as well as being a part of Boardwalk Empire. And alongside with them, you would also see Ashley Gardner, who was involved in this said show, who played the voice of Nancy Gribble, who was also featured in the movie Heart of Dixie, He Said, She Said, and even Johnny Suede, which was a movie I watched a long time ago due to the fact that the TV was stuck on TCM, and it wasn't a bad film. And last but not least, you would even see Brecklin Mayer, hopefully we said that name right, who was also featured during the movie Clueless, Road Trip, Rat Race, and even Garfield the movie, who was even featured a part of this said show as well. And one of my favorite episodes of this said show that I was able to watch alongside with my uncle had to have been, besides the ZZ Top episode that I mentioned before, was the episode where they would rent the backhoe to fix the septic tank, only for Bill, Dale, and Boomhauer to actually get trapped underground messing around with the backhoe, only for none other than Hank to ask Khan what happened to him, for him to find out what happened to him from Khan, and Khan to tell his wife, hey, 3 redneck down, 1 to go. I don't know why that line was so funny, but it really was funny to me. And this show, which debuted on January 12th of 1997, would be one of the longest lasting shows we would get a chance to mention, which would last all the way until May 3rd of 2010. Technically, it would last all the way until May 6th of 2010, with the final 4 seasons or 4 episodes to be shown on nightly syndication on Fox after certain shows would not work out on the lineup, only for Adult Swim to pick up the show and for that show to last on Adult Swim until 2018, and even with a revival of this show in the mix from Mike Judge himself, with an idea already planned out and with him saying that, yeah, it's gonna be funny, but now we just wonder when. And for those who are wondering out there, the concept of the show will feature an older Bobby in the world of King of the Hill. So I can only imagine how that show would go down. And with well over 13 seasons and even 2 Emmy Awards they would win for this show, and even the honor of being mentioned on Time Magazine, one of the top 100 greatest television shows of all time, I say this show, even if it doesn't come back, went out on top with well over 259 episodes, making it one of Fox's longest running shows next to The Simpsons, which is still going on as we speak. The Simpsons, that is. And seeing the fact that we don't know how to review shows along the lines of TV Guide or any of those other major TV reviewers you know of out there, we say this. And if you want to go ahead and watch an average Texas family try to live their everyday lives while they build things on the block to try to make things better, all the while for crazy shenanigans to happen at a moment's notice, where it will feature more country music stars than you've ever seen on any other show since Dallas, and also featuring Danny Trejo, which we almost forgot to mention in the process, then I recommend you go out there, pick up your TV channel remotes, and watch that show. Because I got a feeling, even though it's no longer on Adult Swim, if you look hard enough, you'll probably find it on some form of network. Trust me. And I guess with that said, folks, we might as well head back to this music, and when we return, we'll be back with more of the Tuesday Night Special right after this. So don't fall asleep just yet, folks, and stay tuned.